Welcome back to another chess game analysis video. Today I again want to show you one of my own games that I played in a club tournament, and it features a couple of very nice endgame techniques. The opening is a little bit strange. Let's take a look at it. D4. He opened with D6, and I've never actually seen this before. It can transpose into an old English defense if you just play C4 here and then knight f6, but I just wanted to go for my London system. I was like, okay, I don't know what this is. Bishop f4, knight f6. We have knight f3, knight bd7. Maybe a little bit too schematic of me just to go for the London system, whatever my opponent does, but I was like, I've had such good experience with it. Let's just keep doing what works, never change running system. E3, A6, bishop d3. I don't want to talk about the opening too much because I think it's very standard. Ideas development and striking the center here, c5. c3 stabilizing the position, b5 gaining space. On the queen side, a4 typical moves attacking the pawn chain. c4 kicking back the bishop, bishop retreats. Now with development, bishop b7, knight a3, now pressuring the pawn, bishop c6 defending the pawn, and now a5, which was not a great move that I played. I think you should just take in the position a takes b5, and after like a takes b5, you have e4, very nice, and the pawn can be captured, but then you have d5, bishop b7 back, castles, and for example, knight f6 back, knight takes b5, and the position is a little bit better according to the engine for white because of this very weak c-pawn, but I simply didn't feel very comfortable, and I didn't see this e4 idea here. Another idea instead of a5 would also be to just play e4 right away, which is maybe even stronger. You sacrifice the pawn and you take this, you reach basically the exact same position as we had before. So this is the transposition of move order, maybe a little bit more forced in this variation. But this would have been the standard plan. This is what you need to go for in this position. So you see black setup is not ideal because these kinds of tactics are already possible with taking. I wanted to resolve the tension here on the queen side with another tactical idea. I thought after a5, if he takes with the queen, then you have knight takes c4, double attacking the queen. Queen needs to retreat, and we have knight a5 now blocking the a pawn, and the knight comes into the position. This is also a little bit better for white, but he did not take the pawn, but he just tried to develop e6, which is alright. b4. This is a mistake. You need to play knight c2 here with the idea of going knight b4, attacking the bishop, pressuring the a-pawn, trying to somehow go into the position, but I just wanted to close the position, castle maybe long, and then try to attack on the king side. The engine already gives -4, so black is winning in this position, which I think is interesting. You can exploit this with knight e4, immediately attacking the pawn. After queen c2 defending the pawn, you have g5 attacking the bishop. Bishop retreats, you have h5 trying to trap the bishop, and after h3 you have f5. And the pawn chain is very nice here. Already a huge space advantage on the king side for black, and the engine says this is winning. I really feel a little bit cluttered here. I don't think I want to play this with white, honestly. So he played instead of going into this variation, he just played knight d5. You cut in this position, you need to play knight e5, knight e4, but he played knight d5, which is also alright, but it's not that accurate with the idea of double attacking the pawn and the bishop. So after I defend the pawn, the bishop gets captured, and I was like, okay, in this closed position, the knights are better than the bishop anyway, so let's just exchange the knight for a bishop. I feel alright here, and even the engine now says this is okay. Knight f6 development. We have knight b1 back, now trying to reroute the knight over here, because now everything is closed on the queen side, so the knight is no longer needed. Bishop e7 development. I have castled here in the position. Knight e4, now he goes in there, which is a good move. Queen e3 defending. And now we have g5, very aggressive. He tries to sacrifice a pawn for the initiative, opening lines against my king. The better alternative in this position is just queen d7. And I think the engine wants to castle queenside, bring the king into safety, and then maybe attack, which is a little bit slower. But g5 just forces the issue. I kind of have to take here. F takes g5. Rook g8, now bring the rook into the game. Knight bd2. It seems like everything is overloaded for white, and black has nice activity, but it just barely holds. It's equal, but I need to be very precise in the position. Knight takes g5, knight takes g5, and we have rook takes g5. Quickly, if you take with the bishop and you try to attack the queen and the knight, there is always f4, which we're also going to see in the game. And after the bishop retreats, bishop f3, exchanging the bishop, and black is actually worse in the position because now you see the development. Black king still in the center. There are queen c6 check ideas. Also, the knight can come into e4. There are good ideas for white to win this position. So I think my opponent did the correct way in this position, just taking with the rook. But now bishop f3. Now I can exchange that strong bishop on c6 and knight takes. Attacking the rook, gaining a tempo. Rook needs to retreat. Now we have development, rook fe1. So basically now I resolved the tension. I came out of the opening alright, even though I was worse at some point. But trading definitely helped also resolve some of the attacking potential, trading off one pair of bishop and one pair of knight. So now he played king d7, trying to shift the king over to the queen side, and then attack on the g file, which is open. Now the interesting part of the game happens. Rook a d1, queen g8 attacking the g pawn. We have g3. And now this is basically the blunder of the game. Now he tried to exchange this bishop, because I think after in the game analysis he said that he wanted to trade this knight because it's a nice defending piece, and then the h-pawn can roll, the rook can come over here. And this looks very much unpleasant. According to him, this would be unpleasant for white, so he tried to exchange this bishop, which wasn't really doing a lot here, to be honest. But this is actually a mistake after knight takes g5. The better, there is also a variation where you don't take this bishop, but knight e5, now exploiting that the pawn can capture, but then the rook is open. So d takes e5, d takes e5, king e8. And then that's just an engine line. Queen c5, now threatening to come in here. So rook also defends against some forks. Oh, some forks. But queen a7, rook d8, rook trade, and you take on a6. And in this variation, white wins because the a pawn is just passed, and this definitely compensates the piece that you sacrificed. So instead of taking the bishop, a very nice knight e5 check idea is also possible, which I think is a nice way to resolve this issue in the center. But I just traded off, which is also correct. There were two winning moves in this position. Rook takes, and now you have a pawn sacrifice, d5. The sacrifice is nice because it opens the position, and the queen and rook now get activity. So he took the pawn, which is alright. If you try to take with the rook, then that's not much better. Rook takes d5, e takes d5, queen b6 enters the position, queen b8 and queen d4. The queen can come in here. The pawn structure is not that nice for black, and this is, according to the engine, winning for white, even though black is up a pawn. My opponent, I think, correctly took also with the e-pawn, which doesn't really matter because queen b6 anyway. The queen comes into the position. Queen b8, we have queen d4. Now the queen was baited over here, so now I shift the queen over here again. So it's always a little bit of a shifting the pieces back and forth. So queen d8, queen f4. This is not like the perfect engine continuation, but I think my maneuvering of the pieces definitely work, and it's still better for white. Now pawn and rook are attacked. Queen g8. and now queen f6. So you see the queen gets maneuvered over here, here, back, here, here, and now queen wants to infiltrate the position and checkmate the black king. Rook g6, now we have queen e7 check, king c6, and now the continuation that is like best here and that wins the game is queen e3 back, threatening to come in here, queen d8, defending queen d4, and for instance rook f6, queen takes d5, king c6, 7 rook e3, and now you can double the rooks on the e-file, and this is the engine continuation, which slowly improves the position, and it also helps that this rook doesn't really play part in the game, so this would have been the engine continuation, very slowly improving the position and winning back the pawn and getting activity. I personally, here in the position, I saw a winning combination, but it turns out this is a blunder what I played. I played rook takes d5. Immediately I thought, okay, I'm gonna win back the pawn, double on the d file, and then I tried to pressure the now backwards d pawn, which is very weak. And this has a major flaw. Let's take a look at what I expected him to do. I either thought he maybe tried to defend the pawn, which would have been what I calculated, which is not that great of a move, but it just loses the pawn on the spot. So interesting is what happens if you actually take the rook, then queen b7 checkmate. Now the pawns have very nice harmony here. And together with the queen and the rook, this is checkmate. So as we saw, you can't take the rook because checkmate in one, but there is one move that actually saves the draw for black in this position. This is why I marked rook takes d5 as a blunder, because black can actually save a draw in this position and there is only one move. And I also calculated that move in the game, but not deep enough. So you need to calculate in this position if you want to see how the game continues. You can stop the video and you need to calculate at least 13 to 15 moves. And this is even for a classical time control with like a lot of time. This is a lot. 15 moves calculation. Some variations are quite forced, others not so much. But I'm going to show you the move now. It is rook e8, which I also saw. I thought this was a good move, but I didn't calculate deep enough in the game. So I calculated that you temporarily sack the rook here. Rook takes e6. Queen takes e8. Queen takes e8. Rook takes e8. Now you simplify the position. Black attacks the backward c pawn. Rook e3 now defends the pawn indirectly. Rook takes e3, f takes e3. And I thought this position with one pawn advantage, I would be happy, and I thought this was winning for me. Which is a little bit hard to see. Now, if you're already in this position now, the calculation is a little bit easier, but it's still very hard, I think. You need to calculate even more deeply. These were just 5 moves, and another 8 are coming now. So I stopped here in the calculation. I thought if he actually plays rook e8 in this position, and if he doesn't take the rook but plays rook e8, then we trade off everything and I get this winning endgame with one pawn advantage. And I thought maybe I'm just gonna get, I just play for Zugzwang. At some point I'm just gonna convert this 3-2 pawn advantage into a win. But there are a sequence of only moves that save black in the position, and this is why endgames are so crucial. And it's very important that you know the endgames and how to actually try to draw them. So king d5, this is basically an obvious move, but it's also the only one that draws the game. Activation of the black king, king f2, king e4. Now he wants to come into the position, but you can, for now, stop him from entering. King e2 now holds everything. h5, only move in the position to create Zugzwang. You could, okay, it's not the only move, you could start with f5 here as well. So here there were 2 alternatives, h3, which is interesting. Now you try to bring black in Zugzwang, but it's actually white who gets in Zugzwang. f6, we have g4, the only move. if you play h4 here, then f5, and you again get Zugzwang. Now it's actually white, which is white who is actually trying to hold the draw here and not let black enter the position. Even though you're up a pawn, you're actually very much losing. In this position, you need to move the king, and the black king infiltrates the position, and black wins. So this is why in this position, actually g4 is the only move that holds the draw for white. So here in this position, it's very important that white tries to play for a draw, even though he's up he's up a pawn in this position. So now you don't take, but you play h4, just the only move in the position. King d2. Now you allow black to enter the position, but now the pawns march forward. If black takes this pawn, one of the pawns is just going to promote. So in this position, black needs to take the e-pawn. King e2 only move, king f4 only move, king f2 only move. And here you see white holds the draw here, but very narrowly. So you just don't allow the king to enter the position, you just move back and forth. So I think this was very hard to calculate. In this position, you need to see this whole continuation until the end. I stopped here, I thought it was winning, but apparently it's not, because of all these little pawn moves, and now you get into Zugzwang and you can hold the draw. So I wanted to show this because it's such a brilliant combination, and it always shows you need to, don't be lazy, you need to calculate all the way through. Rook e8, brilliant move, holds the draw. But my opponent didn't find this. Lucky for me, I did not settle for the draw here, but he played f5, now unleashing an attack on the rook because he realized that the king can't capture the rook because of checkmate. So now he tried to force the issue. f4, f5, and this loses in 4 moves, forced checkmate. You can stop the video if you want to calculate this. I'm going to show you the solution. There is one forced checkmate idea, and it's to sacrifice the rook here on c5, which is very nice. D takes c5, and now queen takes c5. Now queen, the pawns here, the queen and the rook has a very nice harmony. King d7, rook e7 check, king d8, and rook c7 checkmate. Very nice checkmating combination that starts with this very nice rook sacrifice here, which I found, and this is how the game ended, 1-0. And I was quite lucky to win this game, especially the endgame combination here with the rook sacrifice was a little bit abruptly ended the game, but I think it's still a very nice game. And you need to take away from this game, take away message, take home message, rook e8 here. This very nice saving the game, end game. You need to calculate all the way through. Don't be lazy. And especially for high rated players, you just need to calculate a lot. This is just how it works. 15 moves, that was a little bit a long variation, but I hope you liked it, and you see that sometimes endgames are tricky. You need to be very precise. I hope you liked this game. Send me games that you want me to analyze for you if you have your own games or if you have professional chess player games. I hope you liked the video and tactical and positional sequences. Check out my Instagram, check out my Twitch if you wanted to see live chess gameplay, and see you in the next video. Bye.